Okay, biblical word study. Thank God for everything. We've been on the three feasts basically that every male had to come back to. These are like the major ones: the Passover, Pentecost, 50 days later, and the ingathering a few months later. And we've been on the ingathering, also known as the Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of Booths, and it's in the same month with the Day of Atonement and the Day of Trumpets, and that's the seventh month. That's the Tishri. The Passover and the Pentecost, it comes in the first month, and the second and third month. And but this one is very important because it's like the end of time deal. I mean, every time I think about the end of time, it brings me to September. So I kind of think that the Feast of Trumpets, the seven trumpets, and everything that comes in the seventh month. If there's an end of time, if somebody wants to put a not a date on it, but a season on it, I would say it would be in September, in Tishri, So don't quote me on that, but that's just my take on it. And we go back to the tabernacle. We had the feast, the three feasts. We know if you want to go back to these three verses here, these the three feasts. Exodus 23. I don't think I have to go through this, but I'll probably do it anyway, just to get me started here. Exodus 23. 14 to 17. 14 to 17. 3 times thou shalt keep a feast unto me in the year. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded thee, in the time appointed, in the month Abib. That's the first month for them. For in it thou camest out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. And the feast of harvest, the first fruits of thy labors, which would be Pentecost, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering at the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in the labors of the field. 3 times in the year all thy males shall appear before the Lord God. So it's basically for the men, but we've seen through Scripture that some women have gone to this thing. Mary went with Joseph and Jesus. What's her name? Hannah went down there, and somebody else I can't think of right now. Leviticus 23, 5. In the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover, and on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread unto the Lord. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. So this would be the Passover. All right. And then you get down to verse 16. Even unto the morrow, and you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, that's on the Passover, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall you number 50 days, and that's why it's called Pentecost. Pent means 5. And you shall offer a new meat offering unto the Lord. You shall bring out your habitations 2 loaves, and that's on and on. And then also down in verse, so that would be Passover, Pentecost, in verse 34. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, the 15th day of the 7th month, that's Tishri, shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord. On the first day shall be a holy convocation. We'll look a little bit at convocation a little later on if we get a chance. So those are the 3 feasts. Passover was 7 days. Pentecost was the 1 day, and ingathering or tabernacles was for 7 days. So those are the 3 feasts there. And it's also, and we got Sukkot here would be the whoops. Let me get this one out of here and go back to this. Sukkah. And I'm sure we covered this last week, but I want to go through it again just to let you know that it means tabernacle or booth when they set up the booths. And there's a whole bunch of other words. 5521 is this one. You got 5520, 55, what's the other numbers? 23, 5526. So you go through all of them, and you'll see different versions of this sukkah, which means to cover, actually. And this one here, let me see, most commonly, here we go. It means a covering, protective covering, whether in the natural world or figuratively of the persons and work of God. And this is where I get into the secret stuff. I could probably slip into that now, but let me just go with this here. Most commonly, it is used in connection with the Feast of Tabernacles. Once a year, the Israelite left his home to tabernacle in a booth made from tree branches. The feast marked not only the joy and the thankfulness of a grateful people for God's provision at the end of the agricultural season, but was to be a perpetual reminder to the people of God's care for his own, whom he had rescued from Egypt during those long years in the wilderness, 40 years. The feast was closed by a day of rest, featured by a holy convocation, marking not only the climax of the religious year. So that was it. After this, we went into the darkness. That's what it talks about in the Bible. It says you were once in darkness, now you are light. Religious year, but symbolized to the rest of the believers in God. Prophetically, the feast finds final fulfillment in that grand day when God will raise up the fallen booth of David and give shelter to his repentant, redeemed, and gathered people. And then you got a physical sukkah here. And I looked at this TDOT7. We looked at that last week. That was the, what was the word there? Skine. Yeah, we tore that one up. Skine. That was the 4633. But these, I don't want to get into this. Let me do something else here. And then the tents, the dwelling place, is also, this is called Ohel. And it comes from, hal, which means to shine or shineth. But this is tabernacle, a tent, a nomad tent. As you can see, there's over 300 verses with this word in it. But mostly it just means dwelling. The tabernacle was essentially a tent composed of 2 layers of cloth and 2 layers of skin stretched over a wooden framework. It is designated tent of meeting, Ohel Moed, as well as tent of testimony in Numbers 9:15. Hold on. Okay, gotta close it. Do nothing. See you later.
So he don't come in?
No, close it. Okay. Tent of testimony. And you'll see in a lot of these tent of, where was I? You got convocation, tent of, yeah, you got tent of congregation, and you got tent, tabernacle of congregation. As you can see, this is over 120 some odd verses here with the tabernacle of congregation. And over here you have 13 verses with the tent of congregation. And this is the same word. This is the Ohel. And I'm pretty sure this one is the same thing too. Yeah, Ohel. And congregation. We're going to look a little bit at this because there's a couple of good words here. 87, 878, and 1991. I'm going to look at those because I'm done with this one here. Whoops. Close that out. And here's another one for tabernacle. And the word is Mishkan. I probably gave you this last week also, Mishkan, which comes from Shakan, which means to dwell or to abide, to remain. Tabernacle, and TWOT 2387. I don't think I have it here. 2387. There it is. Yeah. Okay. So we'll look at that too. Ishkan, 4908, and Pavilion. Most of those are the same as the Sukkah. Okay. And this one here is Royal Pavilion. Would be Shafruar. That's one time in the Bible. Shafruar. And that's in Jeremiah 43:10. And say unto them, thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I will send and take Nebuchadrezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant, and will set his throne upon these stones that I have hid. Here we go with the word hid again. And he shall spread his royal pavilion over them. You'll see these words together in a lot of verses. Hid. But not this one. This one I haven't come across yet. 2934. Let me write it down. Where do I have this hid stuff? 2934. WOT 811. We'll see if that has anything. We'll look at that a little later. And he shall spread his royal pavilion, Shafruar, canopy. Just going through this real quick. So far as a ram horn, trumpet, ram's horn. The Old Testament always used the curved musical instrument, shofar. These are horn. Okay, shofar. Same thing. The prophet likened the watchman with sound of warning, the pending disaster. Okay. TDNT 7. 60, 76, and 85. We'll have to get into that one of these days too. But this comes from shafar, which means goodly, to be pleasing, beautiful. And one time in the Bible. Let's see where that is. What is it? 82:31. Both of these are one time in the Bible. The lines are fallen unto me in pleasant places. Yea, I have goodly heritage. Okay, shafar and shafruar. But there's a lot of other stuff here. So there's got to be another word somewhere for all of this. You got to come up with the whatever the verb is here. Pleasing, beauty, fairness, ram's horn, canopy. All right. We'll do a quick aside on that one. And this, we're going to get into this a little bit, this tabernacle here. And that's 2387. Here it is, 2387. Used 129 times in the Old Testament. Okay. He may dwell, he dwells among his people, he will dwell in Jerusalem. It is Jerusalem in which God has chosen to cause his name to dwell. And it's a controversy over what was in the tabernacle. Was he there or was just his name? I had a bunch of verses on that. Did God actually dwell or did he cause his name to dwell? So we're not going to look at that, but there was Deuteronomy 12:11 and a bunch of other verses that just talk about his name dwelling there. Then there shall be a place which the Lord your God shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. Thither shall ye bring all that I command you, your burnt offering, your sacrifices, your tithes, your heave offering at your hand, and all your choice vows which you vow to the Lord. But we know he had the Shekinah glory cloud, and he came down on that, and he dwelt there. And that's why they had to put the smoke there so you couldn't see him unless you died. No one has seen the Lord and lived. On several occasions, some symbolic representation of the divine presence dwells among the people. The glory of God is to dwell in the land. More often, the subject of dwelling is the cloud. So that's when it talks about I'm pretty sure. And when the cloud was taken up from the tabernacle, then after that, the children of Israel journeyed, and in the place where the cloud abode, there the children of Israel pitched their tents. 9, 17, and 18, at the commandment of the Lord, the children of Israel journeyed, and at the commandment of the Lord, they pitched. And as long as the cloud abode upon the tabernacle, they rested in their tents. So you can imagine you're sitting there waiting for this thing. Is that cloud moving yet? Or whether it were 2 days or a month or a year that the cloud tarried upon the tabernacle, remaining thereon, the children of Israel abode in their tents and journeyed not. But when it was taken up, they journeyed. And that's why they had to do everything real quick. And everybody had their assigned places. If you look through Numbers 1, 2, 3, you'll see everybody had their assigned places. Who was carrying what? All the stuff when they took down the tabernacle, and put the tents and the boards and all of that stuff, and then the Kohathites, or the ones that went in and got the golden stuff out of the inner sanctuary, they had to carry that by hand. Everybody else carried everything on camels and carts and things like that, but only the Kohathites were in charge of the inner sanctuary, and they weren't allowed to put that on carts, as you know. When Uzzah did that, and he stopped the thing from falling, and God killed him because he touched it. Only these certain people were allowed to touch these golden instruments. The high priest and Aaron, and that's probably why they were a little angry at Moses. We got to carry this stuff on our backs, and everybody can carry them in carts and on mules and things like that. So, the darkness, the cloud would move, and they would pack everything up and go. Job 3:5, let darkness and the shadow of death stain it. Let a cloud dwell upon it. Let the blackness of the day terrify it. They're talking about his day of birth, I guess, because he wasn't too happy being born. And then the verb is translated most often in the Septuagint by kata skenuo, and we went through that skene, we went through a lot of that stuff, rather than simply skenuo, to tent, on approximately a 2-to-1 ratio. Why the longer prefixed form should predominate is not totally clear, but one suggestion is that the longer form reinforces and lays further stress on the idea of a longer or permanent stay rather than an overnight hop, says one person. There's another verb in the Hebrew that also means to inhabit, to dwell, and that is yashab. If I got it up here, yashab. No. Well, I got it somewhere. Yashab. That would be 3427. 3427. Yashab. When you see these things here, it's nice to look them up to be able to see what they're. So there's Yashab, which means to dwell, and that's TWOT 922. I got it down there. It goes together with this. I should have it on the same page here, and I'll put it there now. Yashab. What's this? 6950 here. It's TWOT 1991. A lot of stuff to cover. This is the assembly. All right, let me take this one out of here. All right. Shakan. Let me see. Oh, it's okay. What is the difference between the two? So you're talking about this Yashab and the one we're talking about now. Occasionally they are used in parallelism. So 18:3, all ye inhabitants of the world and dwellers on the earth, see ye when he lifted up an ensign on the mountains, and when he bloweth the trumpet, hear ye. So the inhabitants, the Yashab, the people that dwell of the world, on the world, and the dwellers. So inhabitants and dwellers, that's the same thing. And this is the shakan. So that's what we're looking at. So you got both of these words in the same verse, shakan and yashab. So that's all he's talking about. And then Jeremiah 49:31, arise, march on a nation that dwells, Yashab, in confidence, and dwells, Shakan, alone. So he's just showing you here the synonyms, how they work. And the Lord has chosen to dwell, Lishkan, in thick darkness. I have built a dwelling, Mekan Leshikteba, for you. This Lishkan is a new word for me. I'd have to look that up, but I'm not going to look it up now. Basically, the distinction is that Yashab is reserved for passages describing men's dwelling among his people on earth. Seldom is Yashab used when God's dwelling on the earth is under discussion. Solomon even asks the rhetorical question, will God indeed dwell on the earth? That's Yashab. In 1 Kings 8:27, when Yashab is used in connection with God's dwelling, it is his heavenly abode that is alluded to. He that sits, Yasheb, in the heavens shall laugh, in Psalms 2 and 4. You remain forever, in Psalms 102:12. And the word is suggestive then of majesty and regality, for God's dwelling, the Yashab, is Jerusalem and Zion. Blessed be the Lord out of Zion, which dwelleth at Jerusalem. Yashab, praise ye the Lord. Sing praises to the Lord, which dwelleth, Yashab, in Zion. Declare among the people his doings. Shakan, on the other hand, underscores the idea not of loftiness, but of nearness and closeness. Neighbor, inhabitant, and Mishkan, that would be the Mishkan. I got the number here somewhere. Mishkan. I'll find it. The portable sanctuary constructed by the Israelites in the wilderness, described in some detail in Exodus 25-31 and also 35-40. Until recent decades, biblical scholarship vis-a-vis the tabernacle was preoccupied with either affirming or denying the reconstructionist approach of Wellhausen. I've seen his name a lot, Wellhausen. He's not one to listen to. In the 19th century. In a nutshell, he concluded that the Exodus account of the tabernacle was a literary fiction, all right? This is why we don't listen to this guy, Wellhausen. Whenever you see his name, I've seen his name in a lot of books, and why they put his name out there, I guess just to show that he's wrong all the time, you know? Yeah, I'm not going to get into him, Wellhausen. If you see his name, just cross it out. All right. And we're going to that. A more pressing issue is the degree to which the institution of the tabernacle solves or complicates the problem of dovetailing the idea of God's transcendence and immanence. The tabernacle is the dwelling place of the Lord among his people, and yet the heaven of heavens are unable to contain him. How reconcile the apparently paradoxical? He can dwell wherever he wants. That's how we reconcile that. So I'm not going to get into these guys who question whether God dwells with us. And God dwells. All right. All right. Let me see this. Okay, the tabernacle section in Exodus follows the section describing the giving of the law and the establishment of the covenant. What is the relation between Sinai and the tabernacle? Moses receives the tablets from God on the mountain. Before that, he even, at the burning bush, God says, this will be the place where I will dwell. Moses receives the tablets from God on the mountain, the top of which is completely enfolded by a cloud and the glory of God. There he also receives instructions in building the tabernacle. After its completion, the glory of God, once on Sinai, now fills the temple. The tabernacle. What happened at Sinai is continued in the tabernacle. There is a continuity between God's former revelation and his will and his continual revelation in the tabernacle. And we can see, we read all of this stuff here in TDNT 7, and that's good stuff here. Now, this other one I wanted to get into. See, I just read these theological dictionaries, and I get a lot of stuff out of them, but I figured I'd just read it to you, you know. Let me see with this other one. This is the other Moshab, to sit, appears throne, ascending the throne. Some have argued that the verb yashab is never used of Yahweh dwelling on the earth or any appearance of Yahweh to Israel. According to this view, the verb shakan and its derivatives are reserved for any concept of the immanence of God or of his tabernacling with men. And we see that in a lot of places where he tabernacles with us. And right now, where's the tabernacle? We're the tabernacle. It's in us. So usually the Lord is said to dwell in heaven or is enthroned with the cherubim. And in places where the Lord is said to dwell in heaven or in Zion, the thought is that he is enthroned. And we know he's enthroned in us. We are the tabernacle. The economy, the sanctuary of the Lord is praised. Well, God, yeah, the same thing. Probably got a well housing in here too. Second, okay. Main strong, the thing. Shebet, sealed dwelling place. There are only 6 instances of this word used in the substantive rather than an infinitive, yashab, in the Old Testament. Solomon's throne, the place of sitting. In Amos 6:3, it refers to the seat or the throne of violence. This abstract sense uses seat as a technical term for a judicial seat or throne. Roman Catholics call where the Pope sits the chair, right? That's the same thing. I side with the chair, said Mel Gibson, an idiot. Did a great movie, but he's an idiot when it comes to theology. Obadiah uses it to refer to Edom's dwelling place. Numbers 21:15 and 2 Samuel 23:7 illustrate its use as site, location, or spot. We know where it is. We are the dwelling place now. During his sojourn and Moshab, seat, assembly, dwelling place, dwellers. This masculine noun appears 45 times. Basics to its other meanings is the seat of David or Saul at the banquet table, or even at the imagined seat among the gods, which the king of Tyre had conjured up in his mind. Collectively, many seats taken together refer to a sitting or even an assembly of officials. Dwelling place. I'll just go through this line here. If anybody wants to read this, they can get the recording and do their pause to Shab. All right. So his freedom was not as great as that of the head of Pavilion. All right. And let me see if I got anything in here that I know of. The Ark of the Covenant from Kunjin. Sometimes I read these things and I say, I got to get this book, the bibliography. And that's where I get some of my books from, but none of these here. And we're getting back to this hiding place and this other thing here. So maybe I'll get into that. I think I got the rest of these here. 3 times the feast and gathering. Sukkot, we did that. We just went through that. The 1492, I think we just did that, yes. And then the pavilion, I forgot, there's a 1491. Jacob put the woods cattle, built house for himself. First stopping place of Israel when they left Egypt, right? Oil, hell, we did. Mishkan, that's the 4908. That's the one I couldn't find before. Oh, 4908. That's the tabernacle. The Mishkan, the dwelling. Yeah, okay. All right. And the other one is, let me get into these other words here. The 5643, secretly. And then there's another one, 6845, 60, hid. And then there is, and I ran across these only because I was looking at the dwelling place. And all of these secret places, hiding places popped up with these pavilions and congregations. And I just want to get into that. Hold on a second. But before we do that, I want to wrap up the dwelling place with this one here. I want to do this. I don't know if we covered this last week about the harvest being ripe. I just want to get these verses because it takes us into the New Testament stuff, and basically that's what this is a picture of, the end of time, the ingathering, tabernacles, and we went through John 7 when Jesus was at the Feast of Tabernacles. John 7, yeah, and Joel 3:13. Let me see if I got these verses. Yeah. Oh, put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. And it conjures up all kinds of stuff here. And I want to see if I got a cross-reference on this one here. Deuteronomy 69, 7 weeks thou shalt number unto thee. Begin to number the 7 weeks from such time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn. And I was looking up sickle and ripe, and I don't have those words down here right now. Yeah. So, okay. And then Mark 4:29. But when the fruit is brought forth, immediately he put it to sickle, because the harvest is come. And I'm not going to do this cross-reference gig here. Let me throw the verses up here that I have in my notebook. Matthew 9. 37 and 38. 37 and 30. I wanted to give you these last week. Maybe I did. Then said he unto his disciples, the harvest is truly plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he will send forth laborers into his harvest. And we got the harvest word here in the New Testament. I don't even know if I gave you this one. 23. No, I don't think I did. 23:26. Therismos, harvest, the act of reaping. 23. What did I say? 23:25. 23:20 comes from 23:25, which is therizo, which means to reap, and that comes from 23:6. 2330, which means summer. How about that? So let's do this 2326. All right. And then 37 and 38. Okay. And then also in Matthew 13, 30 to 39. Let me put this up here. 30 to 39. And this is what happens. Here we go. And when he says in 13:24, he gives a parable. He says, another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, the enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. Now we know what this is all about. Who's the enemy? Satan is the enemy. But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So you had wheat and tares growing up in the same crop here. So the servants of the household came and said to him, Sir, didst thou not sow good seed in the field? From whence then hath it tares? He said unto them, an enemy hath done this. The servant said unto him, wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? So they wanted to go and just rip the tares up out of the field while the wheat was still growing with them. He says, no. He says, nay, lest while you gather up the tares, you root up also the wheat with them. So this is the sheep and the goats, the wheat and the tares. So let both of them grow together until the harvest. And in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, and we have to look at these words too, the reapers, 23:27. This is the same, under the same vein here with these other words. This reapers is theristes. So that's the reaper. And there's 2 times in the Bible, 23:27, 27. Just look at them real quick. Let them grow in the time of harvest. The reapers gather together first the tares, bind them in bundles. Okay. And then 39 also. Okay, we'll come across that. So there's 2 times in the Bible where you see these reapers. It's a masculine noun. And that would be the angels, I guess, who gather everybody up at the end. All right. So, let them grow together until the harvest. And in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. So that's it. That's the end of time right there. And there was another one here. Matthew, that's the other day. And we got Jeremiah 51:33. Let me jump over there. Jeremiah 51:33. One more. 51:33. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, the daughter of Babylon is like a threshing floor. It is time to thresh her yet a little while, and the time of her harvest shall come. Nebuchadrezzar, the king of Babylon, hath devoured me. He hath crushed me. He hath made me an empty vessel. He hath swallowed me up like a dragon. He hath filled his belly with my delicates. He hath cast me out. The violence done to me and to my flesh be upon Babylon, shall the inhabitant of Babylon say, and my blood upon the inhabitants of Chaldea, shall Jerusalem say. So they shall become heaps. And then Matthew, that was 9:37, and then 13. Did I do 9:37? Yeah, I think I did. And then 4:29 we read. Luke 10:2. Therefore he said unto them, the harvest truly is great, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest that he would send forth laborers into his harvest. And I guess that's us, you know, the laborers. Laborers, ergetes, labor, workman, a workman, laborer, one who does a work. All right, comes from, of course, ergon, which means to work. All right, one word at a time here. Laborers. And then John 4:35. Ow. Ooh, man. Just got one of them Charlie horses in the leg. Say ye not, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest? Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look to the fields, for they are white already to harvest. Whew. He that reapeth receiveth wages, and gathereth fruit unto life eternal. But he that soweth and he that reapeth, that he that soweth and he that reapeth may joy together. And herein is that saying true, one soweth and another reapeth. I sent you to reap that whereupon you bestowed no labor. Other men labored, and you entered into their labors. So this is us coming along. And many of the Samaritans of that city believed on him for the saying of the woman which testified, he told me all that I ever did. So the Gentiles are coming in too. So this is supposedly what, you know, was already reaped, sown. And then in Revelation 14 and 15, and another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, thrust in thy sickle and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. And he that sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. Whew. And here we go with the grapes. The grapes are fully ripe. And what's that? That's the ingathering. That's the Feast of Tabernacle when we get the grapes. The Passover was the barley harvest. The Pentecost was the wheat harvest, and this ingathering is the grape or the fruit harvest. And that's what we're looking forward to now. Sharp sickle. I looked at these words too. Sickle, drepenon, and you get a lot of good verses from these words too. And he reaped, thrust in the sickle. Let me do this 1407. Excuse me for just bouncing around here. So whenever you see this sickle here, you're going to see, you know, the reaping of the harvest. All right, look at that. So Revelation 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, all about the sickle going in. The harvest of the earth is ripe. What's that word? Ripe. 14, 15. Ripe is Zereno, right? Wow. Zereno. Wither away, to make dry, to wither, to waste, to pine away. It's ripe. Huh. Zeros means withered. Members of the body deprived of the natural juices. And then this is the base of zestes, which means a pot, through the idea of scorching, from exo, properly to smooth by implication of friction, to boil or to heat. A sextarius, a vessel for measuring liquids, a wooden pitcher. Boy, oh boy, withered, dry. I wouldn't think that reap would mean this. I mean, 3583. Let me get this. Sharp sickle, another angel. The earth is ripe. So who knew what ripe would mean that? Usually when something's ripe, it's moist, right? At least when I see something that's ripe, you know. And 16, he that sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. And another angel came out of the temple, which is in heaven, also having a sharp sickle. And in 18, another angel came out from the altar, which had power over fire, and cried with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, Thrust in thy sharp sickle, and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. And the angel thrust in his sickle into the earth, and gathered the vine of the earth, and cast it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. Who? Fully ripe. Here's another fully ripe. So reaped is different. Reaped is this therizo. And ripe, fully ripe, is akmazo. One time in the Bible. To flourish, come to maturity. So I would like to be akmazo one of these days, fully ripe. And it go achmen, one time in the Bible, means yet. A point, extremity, climax. I guess that's where we get the word acme from. The highest point, climax, acme, acmen, akmazo. One time in the Bible. You just run into these words, man, you know. Thank God he showed us this, akmazo. I want to get that on a shirt. I want to be akmazo, fully ripe. Thrust in the sickle. I think we got all of these, right? Yeah. Okay. The wine press. Linos. And the wrath of God. This is the thumos. This is God's wrath. This is not orge, our wrath. This is God's wrath. That's hot. Thumos. And then the reaping. But I had some verses written down here. Where was it? The harvest is ripe. 16, Jeremiah, Matthew 13, Luke 10, John 4:35. We read that already. So in the 7th month, so you got this is all going back to Leviticus, when he says in Leviticus 23, and 24. And this month here is a very important month. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, in the first day of the month, you shall have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, a holy convocation. And that's the first day. And then the 10th day, 27th, and the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. So there's Yom Kippur right there. It shall be a holy convocation unto you. You shall afflict your souls. And that's also has to do with fasting, and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. And what's the other verse? The Sabbath of rest. And then you go to the 15th day of the 7th month in verse 34. We saw this already. The 15th day of the shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord. So you got the trumpets, Day of Atonement, the tabernacle, and you got the same thing in Numbers 29, trumpets, atonement, and tabernacle. McClintock and Strong, we read that last week about the tabernacle. All right, the Chag is the feast. Chagag is the feast to celebrate the feast of dedication. Winter. This was in Book of Maccabees. I don't want to get into all of that right now, but the John 10:20. We know about the feast of dedication was when in the winter, like December 25th, when Judas Maccabeus in 164 BC, in memory of the cleansing of the temple from the pollution of Antiochus Epiphanes, and that's Hanukkah. So Hanukkah is in direct opposition to Christmas, because what they set up in the temple was the Christmas tree, and they were offering swine's flesh and swine soup and everything, and they were desecrating the temple. And that's what Daniel 9:25 is talking about. Dan 9:27, 70 weeks of Daniel, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet. And it happened between the testaments. Physically, it happened with Antiochus Epiphanes when he set up the gold, not the pigs and the tree and all of that stuff, and the Maccabees, the family, the Hasmoneans, they came in and they threw them out, and this feast of dedication is it's not an official feast, but they set it up, and that's where you get the menorah from. When they burned the 8 candles, they had enough oil that last for one day, but it lasted for 8 days. A miracle. And so they have this menorah going up now. Then they burn it for 8 days. I have John 10:20. John 10:20 and 20. 10:22. Okay, and it was at Jerusalem, the feast of dedication, and it was winter. So this is this is Hanukkah here in John 10:22. So this is when what the Maccabees did. Judas Maccabeus threw Antiochus out. I got this 1456. Oh, that's 1456. Oh, that's the dedication. Okay. Ekaina, Feast of Dedication. Comes from En and Kainos, which means new. In new. Dedicated, consecration. In particular, the annual feast celebrated 8 days beginning on the December 25th. Instituted by Judas Maccabeus 164 in memory of the cleansing of the temple. Thank you. Somebody else knows history here. Enkaina. All right. So it's a new feast, what they call dedication. Feast of dedication. All right. Dedication. Names. Second temple. I can't go through all of this. This is how I just look things up here. Feast of Dedication, John 10:22. We just looked at 1 Kings 8:65. And at that time, Solomon held a feast, and all Israel with him, a great congregation, from the entering in of Hamath into the river of Egypt before the Lord our God, 7 days and 7 days, even 14 days. I don't know if that's the Feast of Dedication. It depends on what time of year that was in 1 Kings 8:65. And also the second thing in 2 Chronicles just backs up what's in Kings. Through the 8th day Solomon dedication, feast 7 days, and on the 3 and 20th day of the 7th month, he sent the people away to their sense, glad and merry in heart, for the goodness of the Lord had showed unto David and to Solomon. So the 23rd day of the 7th month, this is right after the ingathering. So it's not the Hanukkah. Well, that's for sure, because it didn't happen yet. Right? Kind of logical there, you know. All right, there we go. Anything else here I wanted to cover? I was getting into that other stuff. So we looked at Skine, we looked at the Tabernacles, and the Tabernacle of the Congregation, 878. No, it's TWOT. Forget about it. It's 5712. 5712. I might have looked at this already. It's a congregation. congregation. Adah, congregation. 878. Adah is the word. And you got Moed, which is the appointed place. The Moad is the place of assembly. And Moada, cities appointed, means to appoint. Israel sanctuary. And for the assembling of the congregation for worship in the sense of appearing. And this is the same thing. Numbers 10:3, 1 Kings 8:5, and 2 Chronicles 5:6. So this is also talking about the Feast of Tabernacles. But they congregated, and they came together, and these are the words that it is of interest of God's meeting with Israel's representative at the mercy seat, and that's the Kaparet, is an appointed meeting place. So also were the other times when God met with the people before the tabernacle. The people were expected to come, and God promised to meet them there. God keeps his appointments. Exodus 25:22. And there I will meet thee, and I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the two cherubims, which are upon the ark of the testimony of all things which I give thee in commandment unto the children of Israel. And that's where they kept the commandments, in the ark of the testimony. The mercy seat, Kapareth. Now we got the one in the New Testament, that's the Hilasmos. I can't think of the number right now. Mercy seat. We could look it up in the Septuagint if we had to, but we're not going to do that. But the Kapareth, the mercy seat, is between the two cherubims. I say cherubim, some people say cherubim, but hey, it's pronounced cherub. It's cherubim. And in Greek, it's cherubim. Also, 5502. It'll probably have the Greek word for mercy seat here. Here it is. Okay. The mercy seat, halasmos, I think. Helasterion, the propitiation, the mercy seat. Comes from helaskomai, which means to be merciful or to make reconciliation. Same as 2436. Helios, to be merciful, propitious. That's it. He is our propitiation. When it talks about our propitiation, he goes before us. So this is all. You can't understand the mercy street, the New Testament, without understanding the Old Testament, and vice versa. So the Old Testament is the New Testament revealed, concealed, and the New Testament is the Old Testament revealed. And I will commune with thee. Which can I now speak particularly? So also the assembling of the Lord. Also designate to make an appointment. It's just that one word I was talking about, Edah, Moed, the assembly, the congregation, the multitude of people, a swarm. And the Edah is also a feminine noun, from Ya'ad, to appoint. The KJV frequently has a congregation. And you will see it's synagogue in the New Testament. And when they throw it into the Septuagint, they use the word synagogue, and we'll see that in a second here when we look at it. Congregation of the Lord. I'm just going through this here. If anybody wants to read it when they get the recording, they can do it. Appointed sign, appointed time, appointed season, place of assembly, set feast. That's the Moed. Covers 223 times. We can't read every verse, but this TWOT 878 will give you all the information you need on this particular word here. Heavenly bodies are for determining the seasons. Each festival is a moed, but collectively they are feasts of the Lord, the moed Yahweh. 23:2. We just went through all of these feasts here. Speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them concerning the feasts of the Lord, which shall proclaim to be holy convocations. And we can go look up all these convocations. Hosea 9, the appointed sign. The Lord met with Moses at the tent of meeting. He appeared in the cloud at the door of the tent and spoke to him as a man speaks to a friend. The purpose of Yahweh's meeting Moses and Israel is revelation. Septuagint translates Ohel Moed, at the tent of the meeting, over 100 times as Skine Maturion, the tent of witness. Maturion, witness, which probably connects incorrectly with Moed or Ed. It's correctly. Outside the camp. Can't read everything, but it's a good read, you know. Moed is also the worshiping assembly of God's people, hence Yahweh's foes roar in the midst of the assemblies. It may possibly be an early designation for the synagogue, and that's what it was. However, that this phrase actually refers to early synagogues is disputed, and it doesn't, because they didn't have synagogues back then. They didn't have synagogues until we got into Acts. Where is it? Well, let me see this other word here. Oh, another word for congregation, and we'll slip into the 69:52. We'll slip into that other thing I wanted to get to. Assembly. Moses commanded us a law, even the inheritance of the congregation of Jacob. Then I consulted with myself, and I rebuked the nobles and the rulers. This is Nehemiah. And you exact usury, every one of his brother. And I set a great assembly against them. Hekilah, congregation, assembly, feminine noun is twice. The kahal, which means to gather or assemble, and that's several times. And if there was anything good in here, I don't remember, but I have it in my notes, I believe. Whew, man, I'm just bouncing all over the place here, ain't I? Assembly, but I wanted to get this assembly stuff out of the way. And I still want to touch on that secret place, hide, pavilion. Yeah, I wanted to get synagogue too. Let me see if I got this here. Hold on. S-Y-N. Oh, that was in James. Okay, synagogue, G-U-E. I'll just put that up there so I know. The verb kahal conveys the idea of assembling without regard to purpose. In the Septuagint, it's translated as ekkaleo, and that's the called out. That's the church, ekkaleo. And that would be 1577. 1577, right? Or 1550, that's the church. Okay, yeah. Ekkaleo, 115 times. Ecclesia, the church, the assembly, comes from ek, which means out or of or from, and kaleo. I was going to get into this tonight. Kaleo is to call, so it's the called out. Yeah, there's a lot of synonyms here. I can't go through all of these, but you get the idea. And then they also talk about synagogues too. Where was I? Ekaleo, okay. Assembling of groups, assembling, bring the hear the words of the law, for the consecration of Aaron. That's what they get together for all of these things. Assembly for the census, for the purification of the Levites, for the consecration of Aaron, bringing water from the rock, to hear the words of the law, to hear Moses' farewell, this, in Deuteronomy 4. Kahal, assembly, company, congregation. Usually kahal is translated ecclesia, but in 36 instances it is synagogue, So you got ecclesia and church and synagogue in the Septuagint for this word. And the kahal is a masculine noun. Speak, let me see. Okay. But kahal is especially an assembly for religious purposes. The experience at Horeb for receiving the law was the day of the assembly. Deuteronomy 9:10, 10:4, and 18:16. And the Lord delivered unto me 2 tables of stone written with the finger of God, and on them was written according to the words which the Lord spake with you in the mount of the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. He wrote on the tables, according to the first writing, the 10 commandments, which the Lord spake unto you in the mount, out of the midst of the fire, in the day of the assembly. And then according to all that thou desirest of the Lord thy God at Horeb, in the day of the assembly. So there's the word there. There were also assemblies on other occasions for feasts, fasts, and worship. Distinction between Edah and Kahal. We studied Edah already. Seems to be intended if the whole congregation, Edah, commits sin and the thing is hidden from the eyes of the assembly. Here the Kahal is the judicial representative of the community. There also the case where certain Israelite persons cannot enter the Kahal, the assembly, but elsewhere the 2 words are used in successive clauses in the same sense. You'll see that in Numbers 16, and they're joined together in Proverbs 5:14. In general, the terms are synonymous, so you'll see them together in these verses here. Kahal, Edah, and the preacher, I'm looking for the Ecclesiastes, all right. TDNT 3. I got that book out here. What was I looking at there? 527 to 531. 527 to 531. 527 to 5. That's the ecclesia. Okay. Yeah, I can't get into that right now. That's ecclesia. 527 to 531. And then this other one I wanted to get in here is Moed. We looked at 1991. This 2063. Did we look at this? Oh, 4744. Oh, 4744. Convocation. And this is the Mikra and the Kara. I think we looked at this, 2063. I'm pretty sure we did this. Maybe not. Doesn't look darkness. I'm looking for the verses of Psalms 27:5, Psalms 31:20. Mikra. Excuse me here. Called one. Mikra, convocation, the reading. Once you compare its synonym, Moed. So you got the Kara and the Moed. So this is a convocation of, this is a Kara of the Moed. So it's a congregation, it's a convocation of the congregation. So this other one here, TDNT 3, 700 and 702. think I have this marked out here. 700. 702. 700. 702. Oh, this is that Caruso. Caruso in the Old Testament. Oh boy. It means to cry, to call. As the linguistic basic varies, so does the meaning. The changes in translation show that it is not a fixed expression for a specific form of proclamation in the Old Testament. Caruso in the New Testament. Yeah, I can't read all that right now. I'll have to go and look at it myself one of these days. Caruso. And it's part of the kara, the call, the kala. And these words here, the 4864. Oh, 4864. This would be the synagogue. It's 57 times in the New Testament. Synagogue, bringing together, a gathering, to gather. Sunago, and ago means to bring or to lead. So it's to bring with, to lead with, together, to come together, the synagogue, to bring together. And as you can see, there's a lot of stuff here. TDNT 798. I can't read all of this right now, but you can put it down there for your notes if you want. And then you have, yes, the three words, 1577 we just looked at. That's the ecclesia. And the other one was what, 31. One time, the General Assembly of the Church of the Firstborn. General Assembly. Panagurus. General Assembly. It's pan, or pas, which means all, and agora, which means a marketplace or the outside. If you have agoraphobia, you're afraid to go outside. So this is pan agora, the General Assembly, one time in the Bible. And also that the one we looked at, the ecclesia, that's the church. A lot of stuff here. Let me just do this here real quick. These verses here. 115 verses with church, and you got General Assembly, and you got 57 verses with synagogue, synagogue. And those three you can look at. James, the one that stuck out to me was James 2:2. For if they're coming to you, assembly, a man with a gold ring, that's right, you'll have respect for him. And Acts 19:41 was in the, it was in the TWOT, 1941. And when he had thus spoken, he dismissed the assembly, determining a lawful assembly, church, synagogue. And then these verses here that have this, I know I'm jumping around a lot. I'm trying to get these words here. The verses, Psalms 27 and 5, just to give you a little taste of this. Psalms 27 and 5, where we got pavilion and hiding place, secret place. 27 and 5. Psalms 31 and 20. Psalms 31 and 20. 1 and 20. Then you have Psalms 18:11. And these There's some synonymous words here, 1811, that we already looked at. And then I think that was it for now. 27:5. For in the time of trouble he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. He shall set me up upon a rock. And now shall mine head be lifted up above mine enemies round about me. Therefore will I offer in his tabernacle sacrifices of joy. I will sing, yea, I will sing praises unto the Lord. So hide me, we looked at this already. That's the, I don't know, did we? Safan, TWOT 1953. No, we didn't look at this, but that's going to be down for next week, I think. All right, so that's one word there. Safan is 6845 TWOT 1953. And that pavilion, of course, is the coke or the soak or the sukkah, the den or the pavilion, the tabernacle, the booth. And his secret in this place here is 5643. It's the secretly covert, secret place, covering shelter, hiding place. Comes from 50 Sathar, which means to hide or secret, and it's TWOT 1551. So you can put that down, 5643 and TWOT 1551. I had them here somewhere. I can't find them right now, but I know I have them. And then, of course, the tabernacle. You got pavilion, you got sukkah, and tabernacle, ohel, tabernacle, and he shall hide me, and that's part of this other one also, the Sathar, TWOT 1551. All right, and set me upon a rock. Who's that? That's Jesus. And then they shall hide them in the secret of thy presence from the pride of man, and they shall keep them secretly in a pavilion from the strife of tongues. Blessed be the Lord, for he hath showed me his marvelous kindness in a strong city. For I said in my haste, I am cut off from before thine eyes. Nevertheless, thou heardest the voice of my supplications when I cried unto thee. O love the Lord, all ye his saints, for the Lord preserveth the faithful and plentiful, rewardeth the proud doer. Be of good courage, not of works, not of works. Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart, all ye that hope in the Lord. So hide me, is at Sathar, 1551, in the secret, Sithar, keeping secretly, Safan, and where? In the pavilion, in the sukkah, tabernacle. And then he made darkness, Psalms 18:11. He made darkness his secret place, his pavilion round about him were dark waters and thick clouds of the skies. At the brightness that was before him, his thick clouds passed, hailstones and coals of fire. The Lord also thundered in the heavens, and the highest gave his voice, hailstones and coals of fire. Yea, he sent out his arrows and scattered them, and he shot out lightnings and discomfited them. Then the channels of waters were seen, and the foundations of the world were discovered at thy rebuke, O Lord, at the blast of the breath of thy nostrils. He sent from above, he took me, he drew me out of many waters. He delivered me from my strong enemy, and from them which hated me, for they were too strong for me. They prevented me in the day of my calamity, but the Lord was my stay. He brought me forth also into a large place. He delivered me because he delighted in me. Whew. So he darkness, his secret place, Sithar, and his pavilion, his sukkah. A lot of these are together. And I can't think of other things. I got a few other things here, but we're going to let it go for that now. All right. And we'll move on to something else next week. But we thank you, God, for giving us these words. This word, one word, your book. And we're just doing it one word at a time as we study it. We love you. Give you all the praise and glory. Please forgive us of our sins. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen. I don't know. Stop recording. Thank you, God, for everything.